Sage Wanderer here, and welcome to Coffee Talk! Today, we're talking about reincarnation. Don. Well, it's kind of become part of our culture that, at least on the surface, we kind of pretend to believe in reincarnation. And if somebody, is doing a really good job at something, we might say, wow, they must have been so-and-so in a past life. A virtuoso musician, child musician, like myself when I was a child. People might say, wow, he must have been a musician in another life, in a past life. We often talk about another life or past life. I don't know that we believe it so much as it's just, entertaining and interesting. Some people really believe it. Some people believe that they have been reincarnated. Are you one of those people that believe that you were someone else in a previous life? Well, a lot of my Christian fans are going to have a cow. Anytime I talk about things that are spiritual but not necessarily Orthodox Christian in nature, a lot of my Christian fans come unhinged. That says more about them than me. I have an open mind, but I try not to keep my mind so open that my brains fall out. Don't. So, what does the Bible say about reincarnation? Well, the Bible says that God knew us before we were in our mother's womb. So there is the pre-existence of the soul. That is well documented in the Bible. And then I think there's a discussion in the New Testament, and I won't get into too many details about it, but a lot of you may be familiar with it if you're from what's called a covenant church background, because there's this whole group of Christians, and I used to be ordained in a covenant church organization, and I was taught not only that, I could teach the lessons on what the new covenant is. And they base it off this discussion where Jesus is talking with the guy, and the guy says, hey, who are you? You're obviously somebody special. People are saying that maybe you're Moses reincarnated, or maybe you're Elijah reincarnated. And when he finally corners Jesus, calls himself the new Adam. The new Adam. Was he trying to say he was Adam reincarnated? Well, modern Christianity has built this entire big doctrine on this concept of a new covenant, meaning that Jesus was a fresh start, starting over. That's what he meant by he's a new Adam. But why would he take a discussion about reincarnation and turn it into this very obscure reference to some doctrinal idea? Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was telling the truth. Maybe Jesus was Adam in his previous life. Don't. I don't know. You decide. You guys hash it out in the comments section. But I just wanted to point out that, at the time that Jesus was alive, there was a whole group of Jews who firmly believed in the concept of reincarnation. Currently today, there are religious leaders who claim to be reincarnated, Christian leaders that claim to be reincarnated. Now, they're kind of on the fringe. You wouldn't call them mainstream or nothing. But I don't know that the ideas are absolutely mutually exclusive, except for in modern times, the doctrine of reincarnation has been rejected by Christianity, Orthodox Christianity in general. But then there's the Buddhists. The Buddhism is a huge religion that whole regions of the world are Buddhists. And Buddhism, at the center of it, is reincarnation. And it's very interesting because the character of the Dalai Lama is is the leader, is a leader of the Buddhist movement and the Buddhist religion. And the Dalai Lama is believed by Buddhists to not be a new person every time, but rather to be a continuous flow, and that the Dalai Lama is reincarnated over and over and over and over again. And what's interesting is when you look into the details of this, especially in modern times, and you look into how the Dalai Lama is chosen, or found, as it were, it's pretty compelling evidence. I mean, it makes you go, definitely. It's like, do. For instance, see, the process goes like this. When the old Dalai Lama dies, then there's this council of monks who kind of put their heads together and try to come up with a solution, an idea of which direction to go. And they go looking, and they send out all of these emissaries that search for newborn young children. Sometimes there's a lag between Dalai Lamas while they wait for the young child to grow up enough for them to find him. They start looking immediately for the new baby. And it kind of reminds me back to the Christmas story, how the wise men came looking for Jesus. Dun, dun, dun. Was Jesus the first Dalai Lama? Dun, dun, dun. I don't know. I don't know a ton about Orthodox Buddhism, the traditional Buddhism, and I know there's many strains of Buddhism, and they probably all have different ideas. But the way they find the Dalai Lama is cray-cray. And some of the stories on finding the Dalai Lama are very well documented. And here's how they do it. They test them. They don't just go, oh, that's the kid, come with us, you must be him, by some psychic interpretation. No, they find several candidates, people that were born at the right time to be the new Dalai Lama, to be reincarnated according to the end of the previous Dalai Lama's life and timeline, that they start looking immediately for babies that are born during that period. And then they try to find similarities between the child and the old passed away Dalai Lama. And so they'll take a bunch of the Dalai Lama's personal property, the old man's personal property after he dies. They'll put that aside, and when they find the new potential Dalai Lamas, they'll lay those items out with a bunch of other items that are very similar, almost exactly identical, but didn't belong to the Dalai Lama. Y'all following me? So they'd set like his hairbrush and his razor and his cane and his spectacles out on a table with a bunch of canes and spectacles and whatnot, and other items too. And if the child, and they tell the child, pick the ones that you like the most. Pick the items that sing to you, that, resonate in your spirit. So the little kid will be left alone while the monks and the family watches. And if he picks and gravitates towards those items, that's considered proof that he's the Dalai Lama. And what's crazy is there's documented accounts where not only did the young children immediately gravitate towards their own, the Dalai Lama's own personal property, and, picking it over everything else, but they would say things like, this is my glasses, that is my, whatever, my cane, that is my razor, oh, I remember that book, that's my diary, stuff like that. Oh yeah, that was my favorite scarf. And they seem to suddenly remember. And not only that, they'll remember the names of some of the personal advisors and personal people that only the Dalai Lama knew. And, it's not like, it's not like modern times with television where somebody might, or the internet, where somebody might go find information about the previous Dalai Lama's personal associations. It's before all that. And so it's pretty incredible evidence. And I will say this, that I will admit to being a peculiar child. That, how do I feel about reincarnation? I was being told when I was a little kid that I must have been a musician in a previous life, because I took to it so naturally. I knew things. I knew things about music that other people didn't know. I'll tell you another thing. I felt like an old man when I was a little bitty boy, and people would basically describe me as an old man trapped in a little kid's body. I remember, it's kind of morbid, but I remember as a little child digging a hole in the ground, laying in it and looking up and remembering my burial. It was before I could have any doctrine or anybody could teach me anything. I'm talking at 4 or 5 years old. I dug a hole and laid in it. My mom freaked out. She thought it was a sign that I was suicidal. But really, I was kind of reliving my last memory. I laid there and I remembered seeing them throw the dirt down in the hole on top of me. And I know it's weird. I'm not saying that I am reincarnated necessarily. I'm just saying that I had these memories and thoughts as a child. And other people were also putting it on me all through my life. You must have been a musician in a previous life. It is weird that sometimes I can pick up an instrument that I've never tried before. Some kind of flute or some kind of, older, ancient instrument. And give me a couple minutes with it, and I'm just whipping out music. I'm whatever it is, whatever the instrument is, I'm playing it. I mean, it's why I play 11, now 12 instruments. Yes, I picked up a new one. I just picked up a dobro at a pawn shop, and yeah, I'm 2/3 of the way into having it down. I've only practiced maybe 2-3 hours on it. Not to say I necessarily knew how to play the dobro before. I wish I did. But some instruments I took to ridiculously fast. And with styles that are not necessarily modern. Like, I tend to gravitate towards old, antiquated styles and types of music. What do you think? Do you have a friend who claims that they were Alexander the Great in a previous life? You know, George S. Patton, one of our famous generals, he believed he was Alexander the Great reincarnated. Or was it, who's the other one? Oh, my goodness. I cannot remember. Well, there was several of these. Hannibal. I was thinking Hannibal Lecter. Yeah, he thought he was Hannibal, the famous general reincarnated. And when he went out to famous battlefield sites where previous battles took place, rather, Patton would have these flashbacks and these memories of the battle. So, do you have a friend? Do you think that you're reincarnated? Do you think reincarnation is malarkey? And I will entertain this idea. I don't really want to hear about how, the Bible doesn't agree with this, or you want to get down on, on reincarnation and have this big Bible discussion. But I am open to you maybe having the opinion. I mean, if you have the opinion that maybe they're demons, that these people remember these things because they're possessed by these demons who were possessing people in the past. Don't. I do not believe as a child I was demon-possessed. Not at all. If anything, I was heaven and angelically possessed. I'm a lifelong possession of God. God possesses me. And so tell me what you think in the comments section. Does reincarnation ring a bell with you? Or is it a bunch of malarkey? Tell me what you think in the comments section. And until next time on Coffee Talk!